Thank you very much. Almost accurate height anticipation. Happy Purim, everyone. Forgot my grogger. Good evening, Mr. President, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the beautiful Beverly Hilton Hotel, or as we like to call it here in Los Angeles, Little Haifa. Seemingly every month, every week, Jews gather here in this very room, in this very hotel, to eat unbelievably bland food and to raise money for some Jewish cause, charity, honoree, or the State of Israel. I was not aware that tonight is not a fundraiser, so I automatically pledged $1,000 as I came through the door, and this group being what it is, someone took that $1,000, and wherever my check is, Alavai, that's what I say. So. I do have to admit, in all the years that I have entered this hotel and this ballroom, never have I gone through a process like the one I went through this evening to get in. I want to talk about security. I had to give my name, my Hebrew name, my birth date, the date of my bar mitzvah, the name of my rabbi, cantor, and moil. I was then asked to perform 3 lines of my Haftorah while wrapping tefillin. After all that, I was patted down, x-rayed, interrogated, and there was a brief cavity search, but I am proud to say I have no cavities. So, very thorough, very thorough. And of course, we need to be clearly, this is a time of heightened security, since Israel is, as we know, surrounded by constant threats by Iran, Syria, Hamas, Hezbollah, Al-Qaeda, the Taliban, Al-Aqsa Brigade, the Muslim Brotherhood, and now apparently Brentwood, Westwood, and Bel Air are not to be entirely trusted either, so you never know. As my mother would say, it doesn't hurt to ask, just ask. But it is in deference to that security, ladies and gentlemen. I must remind you now, and I will remind you again at the end of our evening, and this is serious, no one will be allowed to leave this room until the doors at the back are opened, indicating that President Perez has safely left the building. So please, at the end of the evening, stay in your seats until we indicate that it is safe to exit the ballroom and begin the 14-hour ordeal that is getting your car from valet parking. Notwithstanding the virtual colonoscopy I received while entering this evening, I am actually thrilled to be here. In fact, I couldn't be more pleased to be a part of this evening. We are here tonight to honor and celebrate not only one of Israel's greatest leaders, but one of the outstanding leaders of the world, President Shimon Perez. And we have gathered to spend time and pay tribute to our extraordinary guest of honor. But let us remember, please, that Israel is a nation that has had many great leaders, men and women of immense intelligence, integrity, and passions. And I speak of leaders like David Ben-Gurion, the first prime minister of Israel, who, yes, indeed, a man who took one look at the promised land and knew there was much work to be done to make it a true Jewish homeland. When asked to explain that, he wisely said, yes, this is the land of milk and honey, but I don't see even one place that has good Chinese food. And to be a true Jewish homeland, he knew. I didn't say it. He said it. I didn't say it. Leaders like Golda Meir, a matriarchal figure leading her people. Golda Meir, ladies and gentlemen. A matriarchal figure leading her people through wars and struggles with wisdom and compassion, and who was the only world leader personally responsible for making sure the milchadik never got mixed in with the fleischadik. The only world. I was going to talk about Menachem Begin. I think we'll skip over that. Fabulous guy, yes. Not many people know. When he was shaking hands with Anwar Sadat, he said, you'll get a bill for the pyramids any day now, don't you? And of course, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, indeed. A man who is faced with complex issues of his country's growing population and political challenges, and who, when told that Israel should cease expansion answered with near Talmudic wisdom when he said, "Let me tell you one thing. No, let me tell you two things. Come to think of it, I'll tell you 11 things, one from the 10 Commandments," and then went on from there. Talmudic wisdom. As only a Jewish leader, by gosh. Great leaders all, but I think most will agree with me when I say that the shining star of peace and prosperity has been and continues to be President Perez. President Perez has done and said many profound and great things, but I was particularly struck by one, Mr. President, when we met at your offices several months ago. You were so gracious and inspiring, as always. I was in Israel working for the peace organization One Voice, and you shared a lovely time with us and so many of your insights and your hopes and concerns with us. And it actually is one of the great highlights of not only my involvement with Israel, but of my life. But clearly times are challenging, and we were speaking of those challenges. And I asked President Perez how he could still be so positive after all that he has seen and survived. And he said something that I will never forget and that I believe speaks to the kind of leader that you have been and the kind of man that you are. He said to me, "Pessimists and optimists die the exact same death, but they live very different lives." I will steal that someday. Certainly, he has lived that statement every day and inspired the world with it, and we are honored to have your presence and your wisdom and your humanity with us tonight, sir. Mr. President, indeed, please, by all means. Mr. President, there are so many people that have come to celebrate your visit this evening, and before I turn over the program, I'd like to introduce some of our special guests at this time. They may stand if they like, and I would say don't applaud to the end, but nobody ever listens to that. So if you like one guy more than the other, applaud more for that guy. I'd like to acknowledge Israel's ambassador to the United States, Michael Oren. Israel's former ambassador to the UN, Danny Gilliman. Representing the United States Congress, Congressman Brad Sherman. California State Controller John Chung. Chair of the State Board of Equalization, Jerome Horton. Assemblyman Mike Fewer. Assemblyman Bob Blumenfield, LA County Supervisor Mr. Zev Yaroslavsky, there he is, our Controller Wendy Gruhl, and he's up here, LA City Council members Mitchell Englander, Eric Garcetti, Paul Koretz, Paul Krikorian, Jan Perry, and Bill Rosendahl. And of course, we are honored to have with us tonight, and I will soon introduce our Mayor, Antonio Villaraigosa. Nice to have you in town, sir. He's a very busy man. He's a busy man. That's all I meant. Everybody overreacts, Antonio. I don't know. I also want to acknowledge and thank the fine journalist who will be interviewing President Perez this evening, an Emmy winner for her work at NBC, former anchor of Weekend Today, as well as her own eponymous show on CNN. Ms. Campbell Brown will be with us this evening.
Please welcome back to the stage, Jason Alexander.
Ladies and gentlemen, I will remind you as President Perez makes his way out of the building, please do remain with us until the doors at the back are opened. No mad dashes out of here for one more question or to be the first of the car. I know you will join me in thanking our hosts for the evening for an extraordinary hour that we just spent with one of the most remarkable men I've ever had the privilege to be in a room with and listen to. As the president is making his way out, he told me that other than himself, he considers me to be the next smartest man in the world. So if you have any questions you didn't get to ask the president that you'd like to have me address, I'd be more than happy to cover anything that was left undone. My reading, what I'm reading right now. Hair transplant, you'd like to know about that? Yeah? It's not a transplant, smart guy. I couldn't afford that. This will be off my head in exactly 48 minutes, this thing. I'm not ashamed to talk about it. My hair is fake, my eyes are shot, and my genitals barely work. Other than that, I'm in great shape. The 89-year-old president of Israel is having a better time in his life than I am in mine. Are there any other questions I can help you out with? I think the Secret Service has done an exquisite job here this evening. I will tell you this, as good as these guys are, not as good as the Secret Service at Disneyland. I don't know if you've ever seen... This is an absolutely true story. I was at Disneyland. There was a man drunk, which is how he accomplished that is a miracle. I don't know at Disneyland, and he was making a scene, and 8 Disneyland Secret Service guys, you know they're Secret Service because they have the earpiece, the walkie-talkie, and mouse ears. And they surrounded this guy. This is absolutely true. They surrounded this guy, and the yelling and screaming stopped, and then the 8 of them just moved away. He was absorbed somehow. It was the most, no fuss, no muss. Yes, anything else? We've heard about the dream of Israel tonight. I subscribe to that. I have many dreams myself. One involves this woman, a llama, and some hand cream, but I don't think she's going to go for it. And it's an old joke. I don't even know where I got that from. That was left over from a Neil Simon monologue that he wisely cut and I threw in. I don't know. I worked with Liza Minnelli. I don't know if that's of interest to anybody. Yeah. Faye Dunaway, Robert De Niro. George Clooney. I worked with George Clooney when he was very young. Yeah. Was that for me or George Clooney? I need to clarify how that... He's not that big a deal, George Clooney. He's not that big a deal. Who else can I tell you about? You want to know the inside dirt on anybody? I'll tell you anybody. I'll rat them out. I don't care. You know, we've had enough politics. Let's get into really important things like Hollywood and show business. Larry David, what do you want to know? He's bald, I'll tell you that. Very fine man, Larry David. He owes me his entire life. Every dime he made was on my back. Every dime. Thank you very much for your applause. 5 minutes? You want me to do this for 5 more minutes? Would you like to hear, I'll tell you what, in this crowd this might work. I haven't done this since I was 17 years old because I'm not a stand-up. But when I was auditioning for college, because I was auditioning as an actor, you had to do a comedy monologue. And I actually, not many people know this, when I auditioned for George, not knowing what the show was, I did a blatant Woody Allen imitation. So George was initially based on Woody Allen. And I did a monologue as Woody Allen to get into college, and I'd be happy to share it with you right now. It might work for this group. This is all Woody Allen. This is not me. I shot a moose once. I was hunting in upstate New York, and I shot a moose. But what I didn't realize is that the bullet didn't penetrate the moose. It merely creased his scalp, knocking him unconscious. And I strapped the moose onto my fender, and I'm driving home on the New York Thruway, and the moose wakes up. And I'm driving with a conscious moose on my fender, And I'm very panicky because there's a law in New York State that says you cannot drive with a conscious moose on your fender Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. And I'm really at a loss. I'm not sure what to do. And then it hits me. Some friends of mine are having a costume party. I'll go. I'll take the moose. I'll ditch him at the party. It won't be my responsibility. So I unstrap the moose from the fender. We walk up to the door. I knock. Our hosts greet us. I say, "Hello, you know the Solomons." We enter. The moose mingles. Does very well. Scores. Some guy tried to sell him insurance for an hour and a half. When midnight rolls around, they give out prizes for the best costume of the evening. The first place goes to the Berkowitzes, a married couple dressed as a moose. The moose comes in second. The moose is furious. The moose and the Berkowitzes lock antlers in the living room and knock each other unconscious. So seizing my opportunity, I grab the moose, strap him back onto my fender, and shoot for the woods. But I got the Berkowitzes. And I'm driving with two Jewish people on my fender, and I'm very panicky because there's a law in New York State, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and especially Saturdays. The next morning, the Berkowitzes wake up in a moose suit in the woods. Mr. Berkowitz is shot, stuffed, and mounted at the New York Athletic Club. And the joke's on them because it's restricted. Ladies and gentlemen, the doors seem to be open. Shalom, shalom, erev tov, good night. God bless you.